Senator Rosen, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all the witnesses for being here. Of course, we had Secretary Mayorkas yesterday, and as I said to the Secretary, it really was disappointing that only after the administration announced that Title 42 restrictions would be lifted at the border did DHS release a plan to Congress for dealing with the change in policy and, of course, the expected surge at our border. It's also concerning that the plan seems to lack important details about how the administration is going to make sure that our border is secured. Moreover, things like surging resources to the border and improving coordination between NGOs and government solutions that DHS, well, frankly, that they've just offered in the past. So what I want to know from all of you here today is what the department has learned since the 2+ years since Title 42 took effect, and how this plan differs from DHS past policies and practices. So, Ms. Tierney, I'll start with you, then Mr. Nunez-Nato, and Mr. Hoffman, please.
Senator, thank you for that question. I think something that, I work at FEMA, and so my involvement in immigration day-to-day is limited, although for the past year I have had some involvement. I think a key thing that I will note is that the Southwest Border Coordination Center has brought together departmental components as well as the interagency to coordinate their actions in a way that perhaps may not have been done before. And through that, we have better aligned our priorities. We have identified specific objectives and tasks, and every day a team of dozens is working vigorously to execute against those tasks. And that's why in the past, I would say 45 to 60 days, there has been a substantial plus up in both the acquisition of resources as well as the deployment of resources. There has also been a significant movement in several policy areas, which Assistant Secretary Nunez-Nato could go into. So that is one key thing that I think is different and has improved outcomes come May 23rd.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Senator. I think there's a number of lessons that have been learned over the last 2 years. I think, starting with the fact that, because of the lack of consequences under Title 42, the number of people who just keep trying to come back, is really extraordinarily high, and that puts a lot of strain on the system. So the need to have consequences for those who don't have a legal basis to stay in the country, I think, is a key lesson learned. I think additionally, as our senior coordinating official, Mary Ann Tierney, just noted, there are a number of initiatives underway to really kind of look at the system from beginning to end and find efficiencies at every step of the process, from encounter to referral between CBP and ICE to how ICE manages expedited removal in its facilities. One of the things that has been a historical issue for not just DHS but also DOJ is the fact that all of our immigration processes are paper-based, and the printing out and scanning of documents takes an extraordinary amount of time and pulls our frontline law enforcement personnel away from their law enforcement duties. And so we are working to digitize the notices to appear and to create an electronic A-file that will, I think, have really kind of revolutionize the way we process at the border. We hope to have a lot of this done by the end of the year, and I think we will see huge gains across the entire immigration continuum as part of that.
Thank you. Ms. Tierney, do you have anything to add?
And again, thank you for the question. So, as you know, CBP is the first, just one agency in the overall continuum that works the border security issues, and we're usually the first one to encounter people, and then we're kind of in the process of having to deal with them first. But the ultimate pathways or where they go is dependent upon other parts of the program. So I think one of the key lessons that we've learned, and this started back in 2019 when we first saw a big push, is that the shifting demographics of who we deal with, from going from single adults to family units back to single adults, is very challenging to have the right type of facilities to do the processing, to the temporary custody, those kind of things. So that turned out to be a big challenge across the board, because historically we were built to deal with single adults. That's how our system has worked, and that's how our facilities were worked. So we learned how to quickly scale up and change that. And we started using the soft-sided facilities a lot, and we were able to configure those soft-sided facilities in order to work better for us, to be able to attain and process and then move on to the next stage for those things. So that was key to us. As Mr. Nieto mentioned, the improving our processes in between the organizations, in between the move them from the technology issues to get away from paper and start switching to digital. Those are important. But I think one of the key things that I think is important is that this is kind of one of the first times where CBP has not felt we're in the fight alone for this situation. We seem like to have a better whole of government approach this time, and so that's really helpful. It helped us last spring and summer when we're dealing with an extremely large number of unaccompanied children to finally get fully coordinated in a unified team to process this thing. That same process is we're using now as we get ready for for Title 42 to go away, because we are dealing with unprecedented numbers. There's no question about that. I'm probably the only guy that was on the job here in 1986, and we set the first record of 1.6 million encounters that year, which was very, very difficult to do, and we've gone through several like that. But over the time, we've learned how to take better care of those in our custody, how to process faster, but also to make sure we have all the team players involved in it, from within the Homeland Security plus DOJ's, Department of State, all involved to help us deal with the situation.
Well, thank you, because I do think we have to take these lessons learned into a coordinated whole-of-government approach, turn them into an action plan like digitizing so you can share better across agencies, being able to modernize our facilities. But we have to have a plan that's robust, coordinated, and humane and dignified. And so I look forward to working with you on that. I'm going to submit my next question for the record, because all of this really begs the need for comprehensive immigration reform that really does take these lessons learned and turn them into a humane, dignified, robust action plan, not only at our border, but for our immigration as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.